Yes, it's been a long season, but it isn't over yet. The really late hunt coming up next on the Journal. From the north, south, east, and west, from the woodland and plains and waterways, come challenges and thrills and excitement for every member of the wilderness family. These are our stories, our adventures from the wild places, both near and far. All of our hits and misses, the memories, our time spent living the wild life. Join us. Come past the streetlights. Step into the real world. The world of the Wilderness Journal. The Journal is underwritten by
The Ina Store, your Cadillac area Kubota dealer with a full lineup of Kubota tractors, utility vehicles, and equipment. For farm or food plot, it's the Ina Store in beautiful downtown Ina, Michigan. And by Mads Outdoor Products, a full-line Avalon dealer. Mads also features Featherlight trailers, livestock stalls, and chutes, as well as service, winterizing, and storage, inside or out. Mads Outdoor Product, in the center of it all, Harrison and Cadillac, Michigan. And by
With over a century of experience in the Indiana and Michigan area, Reith Riley is a full-service asphalt paving company handling commercial, industrial, and privately owned paving projects of all sizes. To learn more about Reith Riley,
and by J&J Smoked Meats, makers of ready-to-go, high-protein, low-sugar snacks. At home, or the game, anywhere, and everywhere. J&J Smoked Meat Snacks.
and by viewers like you. Thank you. Hi friends, and welcome. Today, I'm headed out into the late season deer woods here in our home state of Michigan. I'm going out for what is essentially the black powder hunt, but mostly because my grandson Kyle Jr. made off with Bess, my black powder rifle. I'm taking old Whisper. You see, I'm hunting in Mecosta County where it's legal to hunt with a standard rifle even during the late season. And just because I've got her along, I feel maybe a little better, but you gotta know if you're a frequent flyer. Yeah, I'm still holding paper, not antlers, no. I haven't filled a single tag here in the state of Michigan. I do want you to know though, there's no quit in our outfit. If you're a frequent flyer, like I said, you know we don't ever give up. Hey, I'm your host, Kyle Randall. This is my Wilderness Journal, and we're going out for the last few days of the deer season here in Michigan right now. That's how I came to be in a bow stand with a rifle, staring at some does, with just 2 days left in my season, and hoping they were looking at something that would turn out to be worth looking at for me. This stand had actually been my second choice that evening. The first stand that I got up into, put up all my gear, and then had to leave when the wind changed was about 200 yards from here. And I'd been here for about an hour when these does worked their way out and then stood there staring down in the pines off to my right. I kept looking. I couldn't see anything, but they weren't moving. They were boring laser holes in something. So I sat there waiting, hoping maybe something was following them, or maybe they saw something I just didn't. And then, when they finally started to move a little bit, I noticed there were a couple of other deer coming up on my left. a couple of yearlings came up the hill and worked into the thicket under the old pear tree right in front of me, right out in front of my stand. And when one of them threw its head up and stared off into the pines, the same place the does had been looking, I slowly turned for a look again, and I ever so carefully moved the camera to the spot I thought he'd walk out, and then slowly got Whisper off her peg. Any little mistake, any movement, anything caught by any of the deer out in front of me, and then he stepped out and the wind blew the camera off him. I stopped, reached back, moved it again, and just as I was about to shoot, it happened again. Friends, that camera blowing off that buck, that's kind of how the whole season went for me. And it didn't even start out that good. In fact, in the beginning of the regular firearms deer season, I was out trying to fill a tag, and to say that it was one challenge after another challenge after another challenge, well, you get the idea. I was sitting in an old box blind on the west end of the big hay field, just watching a blue jay work its way through the apple trees, and then I noticed there were deer. 4 or 5 does and yearlings were working their way out into the field. I hadn't seen much rut activity in the last few days, but when you've got this many girls all in one place, well, it's always worth paying attention, because you just never know who might stop by to visit. They were looking over at me from time to time, but mostly they were just checking out the little button buck that was right down underneath my stand. And then they started working their way off out of the field. And occasionally one or more of them would stop and look back, so I kept watching, hoping something was following them. But in the end, they worked their way all the way across the field, all the way across down in front of me, and the only buck I saw was, that little button buck.
Some deer moving, but I haven't seen any older deer yet. Any older bucks anyway. A couple of young guys. It's really cold. It snowed a little last night. It's about 25 degrees, and the deer are definitely moving around.
There were deer moving. Unfortunately, just not the deer. At the beginning of the second week of the regular firearms deer season, I was still seeing deer, and that was encouraging. But I certainly wasn't seeing any of the mature deer I was hoping to see stick their nose out. They weren't coming out into the field. But friends, there really isn't anything you can do about it. As the rut winds down, all you can do is just keep trying. So that's what I did. And the next night, just before dark, a good-looking young 7-point was working his way down along the pines, coming more or less in my direction. Well, at least I'd seen a buck, and as I recall, the very next night, just before dark, I saw another one. I was watching a lone doe feeding in the far end of the hayfield. When she started getting nervous and making a circle, I looked down, and from underneath me, this little guy came walking out. And after a half hour or so, a few more deer started working into the field. I could see 4 or 5 feeding in the bottom part of the hayfield, pretty close to my stand. As time passed, the only thing that showed up after that was snow. I kept checking the apple tree behind me and the field in front of me, but so far, no mature bucks. The snow was really starting to fall, and even though I hadn't seen anything come to the apple tree behind me, that's kind of what I expected, I was sticking it out, and just before dark again that night, through the snow and the gloom, I could see something coming, and it was the same 7-point I'd seen a couple nights earlier. He was working his way down the same line of pine trees down the edge of the hayfield. Friends, this is a legal deer in Mecosta County. He's got 4 on that right side, but he's definitely not the deer I was hoping to run into. Still, with just days to hunt left in my schedule, well, let's just say that he was giving my personal resolve a real workout. Even though that youngster was technically legal where I was hunting in Mecosta County, he certainly wasn't the mature animal I was still hoping for. But I have to be honest with you folks, as each day passed, as I heard the tick, tick, tick of the time draining away, well, let's just say that each decision to pass a legal buck was putting a stress test on my conviction. Now that's not to say there wasn't any entertainment. There certainly was. Playing stare down, watching little bucks. I was seeing deer. This is what it's about. It's the late season and you just gotta keep trying. Most of the time I was seeing just youngsters. But friends, you never know. Friends, I was down to the last couple of days of the regular firearm season and I still wasn't seeing any mature bucks coming out into the hayfield. I decided, despite the cold, that if I was gonna see anything older, I needed to make a move, get a little bit closer and hunt some heavier cover. I was set up on the edge of some fairly thick bedding cover, and not long after daylight, a little movement down in the brush. I could see a couple of deer working their way past me. Unfortunately, they didn't have any male friends with them. And the next day, after a pretty heavy snow, I was having a hard time seeing anything. Save this one little deer that came out, looked around, and then he left too. Friends, that is the way most of my hunting season went this year here in Michigan, and it's definitely the reason I was sitting in a bow stand watching a small food plot, holding on to Whisper during the last couple of days of the muzzleloader season, and all I could think of was, yeah, it's just about over. It was just about over, and that does, in fact, bring us full circle back to the beginning of the end, more or less. It was the last couple of days of the black powder season. I was hunting with my regular rifle, old Whisper, 'cause my grandson walked off with Bess, my black powder gun. I happened to be in that particular stand because I was forced by a wind change to move there. And friends, with only a couple of days left, I was certainly hopeful that these girls were staring at something other than a squirrel. The does were out in front of me, like I said. They kept looking, but for the longest time I couldn't tell what they were looking at. But when the does on the hill calmed down and started working their way in toward the field, I figured, well, there must not be anything real important over there. And I figured that right up until a couple of small deer came in from my left, and when one of them stopped and stared at the exact same place, yeah, I figured I better look again. He's down right there. He crashed right there. He's done. Oh, he's smoked. Thank you, Lord Jesus. He is a dandy. Oh. Mike, thank you, buddy. Thank you, Lord Jesus. It has been a season. I've been this close to that buck and several other great bucks. I can't tell you how many times. It is the last 3 or 4 days of the late season here in Mecosta County. You can still use a regular rifle. I'm sitting up here in a tree stand. The wind is blowing. I'm videoing myself. It kept blowing the camera off. I could move it over, wait for that deer to walk in so I could shoot. The wind would blow the camera off it. There's does out across in the field. And I'm thinking, man, there's no way he gets out here, but he did. What a day. What a deer season. I just told Mike, I need a trailer. And he's, you know what, he's the kind of guy, he won't be long and he'll show up with one right there, you see.
Somebody call for a ride?
I did for a trailer, yeah. No, well, this is Mike's place, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think I'm in the right spot, buddy.
What do we got going on?
Well, take a look over my right shoulder. You think that'll do?
I do. Look at that body size.
Let's go have a look, shall we?
You beat me.
No. Uh-huh.
Holy cow. You better get a grip on that.
Does that deer look familiar to you?
Boy, I'll tell you, sir, that's a beautiful buck. I've been watching him for 2.5 months. Congratulations.
Thank you. Mr. Mike, thank you, buddy.
You're always welcome, my friend.
It is. Well, you know how it's been this year. You had a great year. 2 great bucks. And I passed a really nice one in bow season. I boogered up another one and run it off. But this, I'm telling you, man.
Isn't he just beautiful, though? Look at the whole body on him.
Everything about him. He's big, he's heavy, at least 4 years old. And everybody knows what they like. And I like this really tight turn. That's going to make such a...
The curvature is beautiful.
It is. It's just beautiful.
And I got a lot of good pictures for you.
I'm going to tag him on his legs.
You was passing up on them other ones because you knew you had him coming in.
I thought I was being nice to you.
I was trying to be nice to you.
Well, you were. Just so you know.
Well, this time it wasn't on purpose because I actually thought I just
1, 2, 3,
no glasses
4, 5,
and no
6,
scope.
7, 8, 9, 10. That's 11, buddy. Any way I count.
You know, I had to take my boot off, but I already confirmed it.
It's a good thing I'm not any older. It'd be too hard on me.
Yeah, you're
I'd probably
moving
have to
pretty
just
good.
Quit.
I don't think we'll ever quit.
Someday, the deer will have their turn and it'll be me they're putting in the truck and carrying off. But until then, there's just no way I'm going to quit. What a beautiful, put my trash away.
Well, you got to remember all the ones we let go, we know are just going to be a little bigger.
Oh, absolutely.
Next year.
This place, you got it going on here. I mean, anybody that doubts the value of doing some management and putting some thought and effort into it, you ain't seeing too many of them right there.
Man.
Look at that. And to get that buck this late, I mean, it's the 10th of December, brother.
Yes, sir.
All the, dare I say it, easy hunting. And it didn't feel easy to me all year, but all the regular hunting is over. And we're still out here. And I think I said up in the tree, but I'm going to say it again to everybody at home. You wonder how Mike or I get deer like this, and I'm going to tell you, it's all the little stuff. It's odor control. It's sound control. It's going when the conditions are right and making yourself wait when they're not. But the biggest thing, I'm not going to speak for Mike, but for myself, the biggest thing is don't quit. Don't ever quit.
Amen.
You just are never going to shoot one of these sitting on your couch. It just ain't going to happen. We got some work to do, but I want to thank you and Chrissy again. This place has been so good to me, and I really thought I blew it this year, and to come back in the bottom of the 9th with 2 out and hit a home run, boy, you just can't pray for nothing better than that.
I never had a doubt.
Thanks. I appreciate you. I really do. I had lots of them.
You're welcome.
Look at that. I want to get you to take a couple pictures for me.
That is just gorgeous.
That was indeed a last-minute Michigan miracle. A buck that old, that late in the season, well, let's just say they don't come along very often, and I was very blessed to harvest that one. I do want to repeat what I said, though. You never want to quit. Don't give up on yourself. Certainly don't ever quit the season, no matter what it is you're trying to accomplish. You're never, ever going to get it done if you quit before you're finished. Hey, I want to thank again Mike and Chrissy for a tremendous place to hunt and all the help. I really hope that you and yours got out there and had a great season. And if there's season left, please don't waste it. Go out. There'll be a lot of time to sit on the couch and wish you were still hunting. Hey, and who knows? You might see me out there. I still got another tag in my pocket. And if I do bump into you, well, you can bet we're going to stop and share that cup in a fire, maybe a deer story or two. And if I don't see you out there, friends, well, then I promise I'll be waiting for you right back here so we can share another adventure from my wilderness journal.